This conversation about building up your blueprint. It's time to take it cause time is wasted. Go grind and chase it, don't lose it. This generation need integration with information to move with. An inclination that is abiding in entertaining improvement.
Blueprint Nation, we are back again. What's going? Heavy explosion in the building, man. And of course, you guys know this is your main man, your Blueprint Mastermind, where we give you the blueprint on how to do shit around here. All right. And today's guest, we have a lot of viewers here that have been asking and probably wondering as well, too. If you haven't asked, I could kind of read in your minds a little bit. I know you've been wondering, hey, me and my spouse, we're in business together. And sometimes it's just causing a lot of friction and everything like that, right? Or sometimes your work relationship with your spouse is affecting your personal relationship at home or vice versa. Well, guess what? Listen, I decided to go ahead and get an expert to go ahead and cover the topic on, working with your partner in business. So, this gentleman here, he is the co-founder of Kiwi Coaching. And today's guest is not just going to go ahead and drop gems on us. He's going to hand out the entire blueprint that you need to know when it comes to being able to go ahead and work with your partner. He's a vet with the armed forces, the Navy to be exact. And also he helps power couples to go from chaos to clarity without killing their business or even each other. All right. So if you think about building a business, it's hard. Try doing this while building a marriage at the same time. And my guest today is going to show us how you will be able to go ahead and do both of these. So without any further ado, let me go ahead and welcome my guest, David Kiwi. How you doing, David?
It is an honor to be here. I appreciate the invite. It was really fun. On day one in the military, they go through the names. They're like, Wesley, Paul, is it? I went, what the? I was like, that's me. Like, yep, that's my name. So my name is David Kiwimagi, but they looked at my name on the board and they're like, you're going to be Kiwi for the rest of your career. So I've just owned it since. All my friends call me Kiwi.
It's just easy to say, right? It was just an easy door opening right there. It's like, okay, you're Kiwi. That's it. Whether you like it or not, that's you right there, brother. Right?
After a decade, I was like, I just own it. Now when some people do call me by my first name, David, and I'm like, who's that?
Yeah.
I don't know this guy.
Well, David, great way to start off the show. It's a great icebreaker. We got some laughs already and it give a little insight into your personality with all of the audience. So I'm glad we was able to go ahead and start off on a good note with that. But if you can go ahead and share with the audience, because, we have a lot of couples that do watch this show and everything like that. And I've mentioned a lot of our viewers are aspiring entrepreneurs, or there's a lot of power couples that are watching. So they're excited about this show. But before we get into it, tell them a little bit about yourself, your background, and your expertise as well, too.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. I do not. When I was, when you're little, you're like, I want to be a fireman. I want to be this. I didn't see myself as being an entrepreneur coaching couple. Like, I didn't see that. But we went through some things in our life that we just could not share it. We were like, we gotta help other people like this. Long story short, right? I got the Navy, been cybersecurity for over a decade, and decided I wanted to get into coaching. I really just loved helping people and making a difference there. Me and my wife were both from the U.S., both amazing backgrounds. She's from Cali. I'm from Colorado.
Okay.
She's got, long blonde hair. She's my Rapunzel. I love her to death. I met her in Vietnam. Believe it or not, we were in Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam together. So that's how we met, even though we're both Americans.
Right.
We met over there. But after we got married, this is when we went from we got problems was after we got married. When we first got married, it was about a year. I asked my wife, I was like, hey, honey, can you make my favorite meal? What she didn't know was it was the meal my mom made for my birthday.
Wow.
Every year. So I had kind of had this expectation on her, which really wasn't fair.
Man, that's right. Yeah, you said, man, the bar was set right there already. That's okay. But
she, oh my gosh, she loves me. This woman loves me, and she's an amazing cook. Like she'll make a 9x13 pan of enchiladas. I'll eat the whole thing. It's good stuff. She's a good cook, and so I was like, oh, can you make me lasagna? She's like, yeah, I got you. So she makes the lasagna. And she got her grandmother's recipe, I guess, and did all this amazing stuff. She put it down in front of me on the kitchen table. And I could smell it. Oh, my hopes, man, they were way high.
It actually went up a few more notches at that point,
right?
It
smelled so good. It smells good. But when my fork dug in, those hopes were shattered. Because
damn.
My fork My fork hit
Man,
something
hey, man,
rubbery.
why'd you build us up to go ahead and let us down like that, bro? Come on, man.
That's all good. This is kind of a 4-part story. We'll
All right.
share it throughout the
Okay.
podcast. But the part one, right? So my fork digs in and it hits like a rubbery substance, not like a noodle. And I peer in between the noodles. And I'm like, what the? There's hard boiled eggs in it.
Okay.
That's not the words I picked, but
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Well, I sat there and I thought to myself, and I was thinking, do I tell my wife, my brand new wife, who's glowing with pride, that her lasagna has just committed an unforgivable culinary crime?
Oh, yeah.
Or do I just, stay
Yeah.
silent?
Can
like
you
a
even
good
recover from that? That's the question.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, yo, you're a good cook, but what the? But I was like, or do I stay silent like a good husband and just eat it? Right?
Yeah.
And
Listen,
here's
if you don't want a frying pan across your head, so yeah, okay, I got you.
you know me, right? Yeah,
Right.
happy life, happy life. We'll get to that later. But I sat there and I really, if I was honest with myself, I was afraid to hurt her feelings. I didn't know what to say or even how to say it. And truth be told, I was terrified of her reaction. So
Really? Okay.
I swallowed my pride, I swallowed my thoughts, and I swallowed the lasagna. But it didn't taste good. It didn't, man. I ate one slice.
Listen. Okay, the first two, okay, fine. But you better have done the third one. I got you.
I did. I ate it. I ate one piece. That was it.
Okay.
But it didn't feel good. And I'll be honest, that wasn't the first time in our marriage that we kind of kept silent when we didn't know what to say or when tension came up.
Right.
And we went years like this, literally years like this. It really came to a head, though, when we decided to start a business together. We were like, oh, yeah, let's do a business. Because most entrepreneur couples like us want to build a business so that they can have time and financial freedom so they can spend more time with the person that they're building the business with.
Makes sense. Right.
But their greatest fear, as was ours, is in the process of building that dream, you lose the very relationship you're building it for.
Oh, you use the why that you're doing it. Right. Okay.
Yeah. What's worse, the kids are watching.
Makes sense. Yes.
So you see mom and dad fighting about business. You see mom and dad fighting about marriage. You see and then all of a sudden the kids are just watching mom and dad fight.
Yeah.
Well, that was us. That was our story. And it reached a point my wife gave me an ultimatum. She said, we need to get some coaching on our marriage, on our business. We need something or this isn't going to end well, as in both marriage and business. So I said, okay. We had already invested, to be honest with you, about $30,000 into this business and we weren't making money. I mean, we were making like $100 a month, like not what we needed to be making.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I rolled my eyes and I was like, great, how much is this going to cost? I was super skeptical. Oh, yeah, many people are skeptical. I was one of them. But I also realized that she's right. If we don't do something, this is not going to end well. Something had to
happen, right? Something had to change. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And so we did. We got coaching and I shifted my perspective. She shifted her perspective and we went through the coaching together. And I kid you not, in 8 weeks, everything changed.
Really?
Yeah. I started to see my wife, not just as my business partner and my lover, but as this person who had all these strengths and capabilities that either I was taking advantage of or not even acknowledging. I was neglecting. And I was just like, dang, you're amazing. Holy cow. Wow, this is so cool.
Right.
And she started to see me the same way. Now we have a thriving business and we have a thriving marriage. And it is incredible. It is incredible. And the reason I share all of that is honestly what I would love to share throughout our story today. I'm going to share some of the top things that we learned that made all the difference. It's our blueprint. It's the very foundation on which we approach everything
That's what I'm talking
in
about.
both business and marriage. Yeah.
So matter of fact, I mean, I don't even want to interrupt you. If we can just get straight into it, let's go. What are some of the things that has helped you and your wife to be able to go ahead and build, this great synergy between the both of you, as well as help elevate your business and personal life?
Yeah. So the 3 things, I'll just share all 3 now and then we'll go through them.
Okay.
Is how to turn unspoken expectations into agreements.
Unspoken expectations into agreements. Okay. Agreements. I like that. Yep. I like that.
The second thing is what we like to call his business, her business, and not your business.
Okay.
So that one's fun. And last but not least, which is like the big whammy, like we love this one, it's how to win every argument every time, guaranteed.
Oh, man. Now, not only am I super interested, but you damn sure got the audience as well too, because a lot of people
Right.
are saying, "Okay, yeah, that's the part I want to hear." But go ahead.
We'll get to that. That's the third part.
That's
So
the
you got to
third
keep
part,
listening.
right? We're gonna
You got to
build
listen
up
to
to it.
the
There we
whole
go. We're
thing.
not gonna spoil the fun right now.
Right. Let's start with unspoken expectations into agreements. Like every other husband on the planet, I'm sure, because I know I'm not alone. I'm going to throw all husbands in this bucket.
Okay.
We have some expectations that we don't normally voice. And it's just the truth. So, for example,
Right.
when I was driving home from work, we've been married a couple years now. We had our first kid, and I'm driving home. It's a long day, man. I'm tired. I've been bringing home the bacon. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I get home, and I'm unlocking the door. What's going through my head is this. Well, my wife is a stay-at-home mom. She has one kid.
Right.
So the house is probably clean and picked up, and dinner's made so that I can come in and we can relax, eat dinner together. I'll play with my son. We'll have a good time. We'll go to bed.
Okay. Fair
Well,
enough.
when I open my reality hit. I began to step across the landmines of the day's activities that they had played and had fun together.
Oh yeah,
And
the
I find,
Lego there and
you
such
know
and
how it goes.
such. Yeah, I got
It gets worse the more kids you have, man. So I get to the kitchen, assuming dinner, right? Dinner's not on the counter, but yet breakfast dishes still remain there. And
Ooh.
I find my wife sitting on the ground with a baby strapped to her chest, nursing. And so I said and asked the question that every good husband would ask. So what'd you do all day? I'm still alive. I'm still alive. That's all I have to say on that.
Listen, I can tell you right now, man. Yeah, you that's an APB call right there. It's for like trouble, right? Because the evidence is already everywhere, but still, I got you. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I did a lot of dumb in the first decade of my marriage. But I tell that story because everybody has those unspoken expectations.
Right.
They may be unrealistic, but we'll talk about that differently, right?
Right.
But unspoken expectations can be true of household chores and laundry and taking care of the kids. Unspoken expectations could be in the business. Hey, I thought you were doing the podcast this afternoon, or you were scheduling this, or you were handling that, right? And a lot of times, unspoken expectations, when they go unmet, are like seeds of resentment that grow in the garden of your relationship like weeds.
Oh, wow.
And the longer they are there, the longer they fester.
And the more weeds end up growing inside your garden, obviously, right? I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Okay.
And eventually, like with me and my wife, it was 10 years later, we're like, let's start a business together. And we just came to a head. It didn't go well because we had these expectations of each other. One of the biggest expectations we had was, why can't you be more like me or think like me or work with the clients like I do?
Yeah, and that's the worst thing you can do,
Yep.
And I think a lot of people suffer from that, right? One may have high expectations and one may have a little lower, and so on and so forth. Or a problem even I suffer from is that you try to turn someone or make someone not who they naturally are, right? You want to turn them into something that you want them to be. And that's not the best approach when it comes into just in any professional and personal relationship. If you cannot work with the person as to who they are and allow them to manifest in the best versions of themselves, that's just a recipe for disaster, right? Because
100%.
At the end of the day, you want somebody's authentic self. You don't want a replicated version. You don't want a Tesla robot or something like that, or something that you've created. So I completely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you said. That's actually what we learn the most through the coaching and what we share with our clients now is help them identify their authentic self and help their spouse see that. Because when you embrace who you authentically are, the natural strengths that you have. Don't change a thing, but lean into who you are,
right,
and value your spouse for theirs because they're going to be different than yours.
Of course.
When you do that, you become the best version of yourself. And the best thing that you can give your spouse, your clients, your kids, the world is the best version of you. So hands down, you're absolutely right. On that note though, so simple tool to turn unspoken expectations into agreements.
Okay.
The reason they're unspoken is a lot of time we don't want to voice them, which is fine.
That's fine.
So we're going to write them down.
Write it down. That goes.
Write it down.
That's the basic principle, not in just marriage, but in just life, period. Write it down.
Yeah, write it down.
Exactly. Of course.
So
come on.
Here's the exercise. Get with your spouse, and I highly recommend doing this over food because food makes everything better.
Facts. Okay. Right.
Facts, right? So you get 3 pieces of paper each. So you each have 3 pieces of paper. On the top of each piece of paper, you write this: your name, like
Right.
mine, Kiwi.
Right.
You write your spouse's name, Alexis, in my case.
Uh-huh.
And then you write both. Now, if you're in business with your spouse, I highly recommend you pick a subject like the business or household chores or the kids, because this list can get long. So pick a subject to stick with for
Right.
each time you do this. And then you're going to write your expectations of each person on the page. So for me, like I write down, I don't get the mail. I don't even know if we have a mailbox, right, bro? I have no clue. So on my wife's piece of paper for household stuff, I write get the mail. And then on mine, I write mow the grass. And I write these things down. Well, don't look at each other's pieces of paper until you're done. Then, when you're done writing, compare notes. They're not going to match. It's just the truth.
They're not going to match. So it should. Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah. There's going to be something. Now, the longer you've been married, the more likely they are going to match closer. If you're newly married, they'll probably be totally opposite.
Of course. Right.
But yeah. So you write them down. But here's what you do. Now, you're outside of that moment where that expectation was unmet. You're outside of that emotional state.
Right. Okay.
And you're in a position with food, hopefully, where you can talk about it. You can be like, hey, and here's a perfect example. Me and my wife both do the laundry on each other's sheets. We hate laundry. I've yet to meet someone who likes it, but we hate laundry.
Right.
We don't like it. I want to do laundry. Yeah, so we sat down and we had a talk. And we said, okay, let's try this. How about you, as in my wife, you wash it, dry it, and dump it on the bedroom floor. I will fold it and put it away. So I don't have to worry about laundry schedules and making sure everything gets washed. I get home and I put it away.
Okay.
Now, here's what we decided. Maybe that doesn't work. Try it for 30 days. You're like, okay, in 30 days, we're going to do this exercise again and see how it's going.
Right.
Maybe we're going to mix it up. But that's how you turn an unspoken expectation into agreement. Besides my wife going, I thought you were doing a laundry day. Well, I thought you were doing a laundry day. Well, you're the problem. Boom, argument.
Yeah,
right?
Then it's a finger pointings and problems and everything like that. Okay.
When you write it down and talk about it outside of the moment where it's being unmet, you're able to turn that unspoken expectation into an agreement. And when you do this in your business, with your kids, in your marriage, in whatever responsibilities you guys share, you will find that when you have those roles and they're defined, and you can mix it up, do this once a month maybe, or once a quarter.
Right.
You can mix it up. You will have so much more peace in your marriage, because the majority of arguments for my marriage and a lot of our clients come from unspoken expectations.
Unspoken expectations, man. That is so powerful right there, because, I think this particular topic is the same where it comes to even just speaking about money with relationships, right? Because how sometimes, it's hard to talk about finances with your partner or just anybody in your family, right? But this particular subject that you mentioned is another one of those that's right behind money. And sometimes you may think that you may want your spouse to be like a mind reader. Sometimes you would just like think that, damn, how come they just don't understand? But sometimes you got to voice these things in order for them to be able to understand. So I completely agree with you there. All right. So, All right. What's the following point then?
So following point, right, is his business, her business, and not your business.
Okay. This is the good one right here. Yeah.
So part two of the lasagna story, right? This is a story that literally has spanned from like the beginning of our marriage till now. Like, this is a huge story, but highlight part 2.
Okay.
Well, after my wife had made the lasagna, when she made enchiladas, I ate the whole thing. But when she made the lasagna, she put it in the fridge. Well, I'm packing a lunch to go to work. I open the fridge and I see the lasagna and I go, what should I pack for lunch? Moldy cabbage. I'll take this instead. It wasn't that bad. I didn't eat it though.
Right.
I didn't eat it. I literally ate the one slice that I was obligated to, and I didn't touch it again. Well, my wife got really upset with that, right? She's like, wait, I made this for you. I did this for you. Like, hold the phone, brother. You eat all of my enchiladas, but you don't touch my lasagna, right? And then I'm over there like, well, your enchiladas are good. And then there's another fight, right? So one of the things that we were taught in our coaching that shifted everything, which is more really what you call the circle of influence or the circle of control that you have.
Right. Okay.
So you are responsible and have responsibility, which is response-able.
Right.
You have the ability to control what you think, what you do, what you learn, and what you create. So I can think my own thoughts, and my thoughts will become my actions. My actions, when repeated, become my habits. My habits become what I'm known by. Thus, they define my character, and my character will shape my destiny. But no one has control over this but me. And so if I'm responsible for what I think, do, feel, and create, I am not responsible for what my wife thinks, does, feels, and creates. So a lot of people are like, well, I need to make my wife happy. Well, the truth is you have zero control over her feelings. Truthfully, if you think about it, what you do have full control over is what you create. Are you creating a home and an environment where your wife can feel loved? Are you doing the things that she would feel loved or appreciate? Or are you creating an environment of contention? Because you can create, you can't control.
Okay. So
Now, let's put this in a
you
management perspective.
you can create chaos, but you cannot control the chaos once you go ahead and let the bomb out there,
Yeah,
pretty much.
I can control my mouth, right? I can
Right.
control my thoughts, but I can't control hers. This also works in management. And I actually taught this to a bunch of managers with Motorola not that long ago. And I said, you are not responsible for what your employees do. And they're like, whoa, hold up. I'm responsible for their work and getting it done. It's like, do you do the work? They're like, well, no, they do. I'm like, they're responsible for it. Here's what you're responsible for. Do you create an environment where they know what work needs to be done? Do you create an environment where they can come in and they know what's expected of them?
Good point. Good point there. Okay.
One of the
Okay.
managers raises his hands and he's like, well, I want my people to innovate and come up with ideas on their own. I was like, cool. Do you create an environment where it's safe to fail? Because Thomas Edison innovated and he came up with 1,000 ways before he came up with one where the light bulb worked, right?
That's true.
So when your employees come to you and they say, hey, boss, I have an idea, do you shut it down and say, stay in your lane? I don't want to take any ideas from you. Or if they do an idea and it fails, you say, well, that was stupid. Wish you hadn't tried that. Or do you create an environment where you go, hey, man, I know that didn't work out as like you wanted to, but what did we learn from it? And what can we try next time? And you create an environment where they feel safe to succeed. Simon Sinek said it perfectly. He said, leaders make people feel safe. And so when you own it, say, I'm going to own what I think, do, feel, and create, and I'm not going to try to control what other people think, do, feel, and create. We taught this to a lady in our 8-week marriage client coaching.
Right.
And she went like this. She went, kind of freaked us out. Like, whoa, you okay? She goes, 99% of my anxiety is because I'm stressing about how my husband feels. And I'm like, yeah, stop that. Focus on, are you creating an environment where he can feel loved? She's like, I got to try this. So I said, let's follow up.
Let me try this, right? Right.
So
okay.
week later, yeah. She's like, my husband feels so loved. He said to me the other day, wow, I feel so appreciated by you. And I feel so comfortable at home. What changed? And she's like, I stopped stressing about him. And I started focusing on what I could control, was the environment of the home where he could come home and feel love. And I was like, whoa. Anyway, last but not least is not your business.
Not your business. Yeah, this is
Not
the
your
one I want to
business.
hear about. Yeah,
Yeah.
as far as a lot of people as well, too. Go ahead.
It's also, I've heard it called God's business, right?
Right. Okay.
And so think about a hurricane. A hurricane coming, and the meteorologists, the experts, I lived in Florida for a while, they have no idea. They take an educated guess, but it's coming. They're not sure where. So I can sit here and I can stress about things that are outside of my control and everybody else's control. God's business, right? What he thinks, does, feels, and creates.
Right.
I can't stop the hurricane. I can't change the hurricane. I can't shift it. But what if I focus on what I could? Well, I can create an evacuation plan. I can go buy the supplies I need. I can educate my kids on, okay, here's the plan, guys. If it gets too close, we're going to grandma's house, right? We're doing this. I can control all those factors. And when you focus on what's in your business and you let go of what's in everybody else's business, your anxiety goes down, your stress goes down, and you feel more control of your life, and you can steer your life in the direction you want to go and your marriage.
Wow. And how long and of course, this is a framework that you've, of course, developed and been able to go ahead and coach other couples and other power couples to be able to implement in their personal and business lives. So how long after implementing this framework have you been able to go ahead and get transformation from your clients?
This usually it's 8 weeks. We take people through an 8-week course. It's like so a little bit of side note for our what we sell. But we do 8 weeks of 1-hour coaching with the husband and the wife. They learn their Gallup strengths, which is the test that we use, and they both take the exam. And we teach them about each other and what they're good at. And then we give them principles like these on how to apply it. They then turn around and go rock their business and their marriage. So 8 weeks for us, about week 4, we noticed a massive difference. But by 8 weeks, we were completely different people.
Well, let me ask, and here's another question, because there's a big conception out there where trying to conflate personal and business sometimes can be disastrous, right? Working with your spouse can sometimes, end up being something that's worse, putting you in a worse position than is, right? Now it works for many people, right?
Mhm.
But for others to be able to not have that separation, to be able to, commingle both work as well as home. Sometimes you bring the problems from work at home and you bring problems from home at work, vice versa. And it could be a recipe for disaster. So how do you be able to help individuals overcome that thought right there, or that issue that some people face?
No, fantastic question. A lot of times too, we work with like ladies or guys that are running the business by themselves because they don't want the marriage to be ruined by it, because they
Right.
tried and it didn't go well. Like
Right.
I totally get that. So we coach single people all the time, but these principles don't just apply to a marriage; they apply to any relationship: employee, manager, parent, and kid. Right? It depends
Okay.
on how you sit down with it. So when you focus on what you can control and you let go of what you can't, then you start to understand what's within your scope. The biggest thing that people struggle with in a marriage or even in a business is communication. Because if you
Communication is
can
key.
communication is key. If you can't communicate your needs, if you can't communicate your desires, if you can't communicate your unspoken expectations, and if you can't communicate your goals and your vision, then the wife has one vision for the company and the husband has another vision. Two visions is division.
Right. Two
Ah,
visions is division.
yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
like that. I like that.
So,
Okay.
but when you can communicate, you understand your spouse's needs and how they're wired and what makes them tick, and you know how to speak in a way. This is what really got me working with my wife well, is I know how she works. I know how she thinks. I don't have to guess anymore. I don't have, most husbands are like, what's she thinking? I know exactly what she's thinking. I
Right.
do, because I know how she's wired now. That's what I learned through the coaching. But I don't have all the time in the podcast to share all those
That's
things, or I
okay.
would.
That's okay.
But if you start with this, you start with figuring out how to turn unspoken expectations into agreements. You write them down and you learn to work together outside of the heated moment, outside of the frustration of why isn't dinner made, right?
Right.
That sort of thing. You work on it outside. And then you know that I can't control what they do. I'll focus on what I can. When you have those two mindset shifts, you will have a completely different perspective on your interactions at work and at home.
Wow.
But the big key to make them all work is how to win every argument, because you will still argue. Me and my wife argued this morning.
Right. I
You
mean,
will
argue
still argue.
to a certain degree. I mean, arguing is healthy, right? Not, of course,
It is.
to the point where it's abuse or it's doing excessively. Anything in life in moderation, right?
Iron sharpens iron.
Having that little bit of discord actually is a positive. I mean, even for the makeup sex is great, right? But nevertheless,
Oh yeah,
yeah, I had to throw that in there. But nevertheless,
I got a story on that.
you want to be able to go ahead and hear hear the expressions and hear what your spouse or your partner is thinking. And
Absolutely.
sometimes, the heat of the moment is the way to coax that out of them, right?
Yeah.
But now, so with that being said, so you've outlined the steps to making a healthy relationship, whether it's professionally and personally, right? So
Mhm.
now, what do unspoken expectations destroy faster? Is it business or marriage?
I would say it's actually the marriage.
The
If I
marriage,
was
huh?
to the marriage, because what happens is the business, like, we got to keep the business going. We're not making money, and you put all this stress and expectation on making sure the business makes it, while the marriage gets neglected. Date nights turn into project management meetings.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Right,
Yeah, we're like,
right, right.
oh, I'm guilty of this. I'm totally guilty of this, 100%. Where I have like, oh, we need to talk about the business thing. We go on a date every Tuesday. We get a babysitter. And one of the rules we have is we can talk about business on the date, but only if it's something that's making us both excited and we both love it and we're bonding. So it's not an
Mm.
off-touch subject, but it has to be not a conflict thing. And so that's the biggest one, is the marriage starts to hurt because everyone's putting effort into the business.
Right. And now, which is a great segue to my next point right here, because a lot of entrepreneurs also deal with this at some point in their life where they're so focused on the vision and the business, there's neglect on the spouse and the partner, and at that time, that can build resentment from the spouse and the partner that's being neglected. Right. And, you look at both sides of the fence, both of them have valid to a degree, both of them have valid points, right? Because of course, you have the one that's so laser focused on the vision, so, keen in on being able to go ahead and accomplish a goal that he or she has for themselves. But at the other sense, you have the spouse who, that's there for you, that's giving you that emotional support, that's being able to go ahead and pick up the pieces that you're neglecting, like the household and everything like that. Just because they're not intertwined or involved in your business doesn't necessarily mean that they're not behind you or beside you and everything. So
Yeah.
how do you deal with that as well too, where there's that resentment from one that's laser focused on the business and the other one as being neglected because of the business?
Oh goodness, I mean, excellent question. A lot of times too, business power couples, one person started with the idea, like, I'm going to run a business. And then the other one came along and says, oh, I'll join you. Right. And then they're like, wait, this is my idea. This is my business. And they're like, well, I'm just trying to help.
Right.
And a lot of times the way we do things are different. In fact, with me and my wife, when we took our strengths assessment, turns out we're polar opposites. But when you learn to appreciate each other's strengths, when you learn to see them as the gifts that they have,
right,
you actually let go of responsibility. You're like, oh my gosh, my wife is a relationship builder. She is so good at it. And I'm like, you should handle the client meetings. I know I do. I would do it.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
But you're so good at it. Yeah. So I let it go. Me, I'm a talker. I got woo and communication and command high. I love to talk and like to meet new people. And so I do a lot of like the Facebook ads and the podcasts and stuff like that because I love it. I love it.
That's your strength right there. Right.
It is fun though, because I tell these lasagna stories. When my wife is able to join me on a podcast, she gets to tell her side of it. This is a lot.
She might say on the side that, oh yeah, he loved it. Okay, and just turn and look for your reaction before
she'll tell me straight up. Yeah, she's like, I don't even cook it for him anymore. This is the truth. But on that note though, no matter what you encounter,
right,
no matter how good your marriage is, no matter how good your business is, you're gonna have arguments.
Right. So it's gonna happen. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, if there's not an argument, there's an actual problem. That's the way you want to look at it, right?
If you're conflicting at some point is good, but there is a way to win every argument every time.
Right.
And so back on the lasagna kick for a minute, because it's a good story. But I was at work, and this was a few years ago, and my boss, when I were talking in the break room, he's like, oh man, I like this and I like this. And we're talking about our favorite foods.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, I mentioned lasagna. And he goes, oh, bro, my wife makes an amazing lasagna. I'll have her make you one. Okay. All I could think was, oh God, please don't. I was like, I'm getting in trouble here. Because at this point in our marriage, my wife had made 5 different lasagna recipes, and I didn't like any of them.
Yeah, listen, if you would have brought outsiders lasagna, you better off bringing home a mistress at that point, bro. Because a different lasagna would be just as bad or worse than bringing in somebody else. But go ahead, yeah.
You're ahead in my story, but yeah, you see where this is going.
Exactly.
So the next day I show up at work, and sure enough, man, there is a lasagna in the break room fridge with kiwi written right across the top. And I thought to myself, do I leave it in the break room fridge and disappoint my boss? Or do I take it home and possibly start a fight with my wife?
Wow.
I had another thought, though. This would probably be the first time in my marriage that I actually got decent lasagna. I took it home.
Oh, okay. So
I was feeling brave.
Man, brave. Listen, yeah. I'll be honest with you. I would have eaten it in the car.
It wasn't cooked. It wasn't cooked, though. I didn't
okay, all right. It wasn't cooked. All right, cool.
So it wasn't cooked. So I take it home. I put it in our fridge. Of course, my wife finds it. She's got the fridge wide open, and she's like, what's this? She talks just like that.
Yeah.
And I'm over there sheepishly. I'm like, food. She knows what it is. She peeks in the lid. She's like, where did you get it? My boss's wife made it. I will never forget the words that my wife said. She looks at me and she closes the fridge, puts her hands on her hips, and looks at me with total disappointment and says, couldn't get it from your wife, so you had to get it from another man's wife, huh?
Man, yeah, you should have expected that. That was coming right there.
Oh yeah,
that's
I walked
coming.
into that.
Come on now, come on.
So anyway, boom, big fight, right? So how do you win an argument? Every time, guaranteed. Well, here's something that we forget, especially after you've been married a while. Like when you get married, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're holding her hand and you're like, oh, I'm in love. You and me versus the world, honey. Sick or poor, we'll take it on together. Well, then kids show up. and then businesses happens, and then 401ks and in-laws, and then you're the problem, you get it from your mom. You're like, you know how it goes.
Yeah, of course. You forgot the dog, it's like, come on.
Oh yeah, you got a dog in there, right? Yeah, you get these fights. And you forgot that it was you and me versus the world.
Right.
You and me versus the problem. A lot of misconceptions are when you argue, someone has to lose. That's not true.
Right.
There's another misconception of happy wife, happy life. That really is a disgruntled husband recipe.
Yeah, that is true.
It really
because,
is.
that's saying somebody walks away the loser, pretty much, like you said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Someone has to lose. That's still what that is. And so when I was taught this, I was really skeptical. I was like, okay, how do I win? And he said, it's you and me versus the problem. A lot of times the problem is not what you're fighting about. The problem is actually not what you're arguing about even. The problem is something else. Let's take this from a management perspective real quick, right?
All right.
Let's say a manager is told, you have to cut costs. The employee's like, dude, I want a raise. Have you seen the cost of eggs? And then they go into the conference room and they have a discussion. How's that go?
Yeah, and it's like not too good, pretty much. Yeah.
Right? But what if the manager and the employee had this concept of it's you and me versus the problem? How can we come together and work on the problem? Well, the problem isn't that the employee wants a raise. Everybody does. The problem isn't that the manager has to cut cost. What's the reason they can't have both?
Because there's not enough money to be able to give the raise. Exactly.
There you go. The problem is the company's not profitable.
Right.
So what if the manager and the employee sat down and said, okay, let's put our heads together. How can we come up with making more money for the company? Now it's manager and employee versus the problem.
Now we could solve the problem of you getting a raise. Right. I see what you're saying. Yeah. All right. Working together on one problem to be able to provide a solution for another problem, in other words.
Yeah. And a lot of arguments, I would say 99% of them, I don't have full statistics on that,
right?
But all the ones that we work with our clients on, the real problem is usually an unspoken expectation. And it's because they're so stressed about the other person's business and they're not controlling their own.
I mean, that goes back to the old cliche, mind your business, right? literally mind your business, in other words. Yeah.
Me and my wife got in a fight over laundry, like a full-blown argument, literally over laundry.
Oh my goodness.
We sat down, the real problem is here, we don't have a household schedule so that we can build our business and still survive with laundry and dishes and kids. I have 3 kids now, right?
Right.
That was the real problem. And so I said, okay, honey, I'm sorry. I was arguing with you. It's you and me versus the problem. So when you're in an argument, reset. If you need to take a break, take a break. Let the emotions calm down and say, you know what? I love you. It's you and me versus the problem. Can you help me find out what the real problem is here so that we can work on it together? And when you approach an argument with the mentality of, we're going to win this together because we are going to take out the problem. We're going to figure out what that is and we're going to solve it. Maybe it's poor planning. Maybe it's bad budgeting. Maybe it's something else. But if you work on it together, here's the beautiful part. Every single argument that you have, every single conflict, every single challenge, whether it's business or marriage or both, becomes an opportunity for you to grow your relationship stronger. And now you don't fear conflict. You embrace it because, ooh, dude, this is an opportunity where we can get better. This is a hole in our business that we got to fix. This is a conflict in our marriage that we get to resolve, and we get to do it together so that we build a better future.
Awesome. David, you have been super powerful in your words of encouragement because, again, there's a lot of power couples out there that, they've built a tremendous business or platform for themselves, or they're super in love at their home. They probably have cracks that's showing in the surface of one or the other, and you have given a good ways and good approaches for them to be able to, in order for them to be able to overcome some of these things. So, with that being said, I want to go ahead and ask you, now you've went ahead and broken down your approach, the 3 steps in order for anyone to be able to go ahead and be successful when it comes to their professional and personal lives. If there's one piece of advice you could share with the power couples out there to be able to build their blueprint to be successful professionally and personally, what would that one piece of advice be before we wrap up the show?
One piece of advice before we get to closing. The pressure that you have endured in your marriage and in your business, where you feel like you're just crumbling, the heat and the burns that you feel like have seared you through all the things that you have fought together through with. And sometimes even in your business or in your marriage, you feel like a piece of you has been cut away and you've gone through these cuts. Pressure, heat, and cuts. That is the exact process on how a diamond is made. But a diamond in a dark room is nothing more than a sharp rock. You have to be willing to say, you know what? I want to step out into the light. I want to share my story, start my own podcast, do this business with my spouse so that we can shine. And when you do, the world sees you as beautiful, breathtaking, and unbreakable. But you have to have the courage to step out and say, it's worth it to go through what we need to go through to become the diamond, to shine a light for everybody else. Because your story, your business, your product, your podcast may be the inspiration that there are people out there waiting and dying to see.
Man, David, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom when it comes to this. And this is something that a lot of our viewers needed to hear, especially when it comes to the bond that they forged on their business and personal journey. And I'm glad that you said these are general tips that you shared. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a marriage aspect, right? It could be employee-employer relationship, right? It could be two colleagues that are working together or whatever the case may be. So this right here, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you was able to go ahead and take a lot of the insights that David has been able to share with you. He's have helped hundreds and hundreds of power couples to be able to go ahead and recognize the best version of themselves, to be able to go ahead and synergize, collaborate, network, and more importantly, build an authentic version of their professional and personal life. So, don't never go ahead and have the mindset that you cannot work with your spouse, because guess what? As we have learned today from David, that is farthest from the truth, which, by the way, David, I'm pretty sure a lot of members of the audience, they definitely want to connect with you. They want to hear how they can be able to get more insight, more coaching from yourself in order to help build their marriage and business life. How can they be able to go ahead and connect with you and do so? You there?
Oh, there we go.
There we
All
go.
Right, you froze
okay.
for a while. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So
I think I caught what you were stepping though.
All right. Yeah. So what I was just, if you haven't caught what I said, basically, if you could just share with the audience what's the best way to connect with you, so therefore they can be able to go ahead and get more information and insight on everything you shared today.
Absolutely. I'll give you the last bit of the lasagna story.
All right, cool. So, yeah, let's do it. Hit me with it.
Before we get to that, though, how to get a hold of me. So one of the things that we like to do, working with our clients, we like to set people up for success, whether they're ready for coaching or not, whether you're starting your business, you've been doing it successfully or not, or whether you've got it figured out or you're just getting started. You can, at davidandalexaskiwi.org, download a free workbook that will go through your strengths and your spouse's strengths and how you can apply those to your marriage and your business right now without any coaching. There's also at the bottom of that how to get a hold of us for a coaching session. So, hang on, I lost you. No. Okay, there we go. I think
there
I'm back.
We go. Okay, yeah. I was like, whoo. All right. I hope we didn't lose you. We're just doing excellent up until this whole point. But all go ahead.
So I'll leave you with this. After 10 years of marriage, my wife swallowed her pride, and she took the trek to my mom's house and sat across the kitchen table with my mom and said, "What is this coveted recipe that he loves so much? I want to make it for him. And will you please share it with me?" And my mom looked at her shocked, surprised. She shrugged her shoulders and she's like, "What recipe? I always bought it frozen from the store." And so after my wife told me that, I was just shocked, absolutely shocked. That I was like, apparently I like frozen Walmart lasagna. That's what I like. And so the reason I share this with you, is because sometimes the things that we fight over for 10 years, that was a source of conflict in our marriage. Now it's one of the funniest stories that we have. So when you learn how to work in your business, turn unspoken expectations into agreements, and win every argument, those big things that you thought were huge problems become simple things that you can work through with your spouse.
I'm glad that we've been able to have you on the show today, David. It's been super dope. The audience, of course, the link to be able to follow David will be in the show notes as well as the description of today's show. If you're somebody that's struggling, or even if you're not struggling, if you're excelling in your relationship professionally and your personally in your marriage and your business, and you want to be able to take it to that next level,
I hope you guys have a wonderful time. Create your blueprint. And continue to follow the podcast.
They could be great mentors for you to be able to go ahead and help build your business, build your marriage, which ultimately is going to help bring a high level of success. But with that being said, thanks for tapping into the Respect My Blueprint podcast, where we give you the blueprint on how to do shit around here. And as always, we're going to catch you on the flip side. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
This conversation about building up your blueprint. It's time to take it, cause time is wasted. Go grind and chase it, don't lose it. This generation need integration with information to move with. An inclination that is abiding in entertaining improvement. Yep, West Paul with Blueprint. This guests are exclusive. Get on and tune in and then learn some new tips about credit, finance, investment. A nice chance to get rich and buy land. Flip it, quick 9 bands. Learn all the skills from Wesley did it. Learn how to build successful business. Run up a mill and get the digits. Run up a mill. Look, safe place where guests are speaking. Based off financial freedom. All facts, no cap, believe it. Podcast, you have to see it.